Josh Blumenthal is here. I did my best on the bio because you've done so many things in the past for lacrosse. We dumbed it down. We went with former broadcaster of the NLL, high school coaches. That's lacrosse, right? Love that. We'll get to that soon. And former NLL assistant director of PR, which is a mouthful for the graphics. So we appreciate you, sir, for joining. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. We appreciate you for coming on. It's been a fun show so far. Let's see. I don't know how much heat you're gonna bring, but Cody brought some there. I would say. What do you think?
He's a hard act to follow, you know. But I'm excited to join. I just, I want to echo what he said towards the latter part of that interview. Just the fact that you do this and you do it, I'm sure you're making millions of dollars, of course. You do it for the love of the sport. And I also think, you've only been into it for, 3-4. I think this might be your 4th season upcoming.
Yes.
And not only do you do it, but the wealth of knowledge that you've gained, and you don't even have a local team. I mean, you're 4 hours from
it sucks.
from the Swarm. So that's probably your one Achilles heel, but that's nothing you can do about it. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I'd love to talk a little history of the NLL. We talk a lot about the future and, with the CBA and, and all these different stuffs and drafts and all this stuff. But there's a whole history. This is, I believe, the 39th year. Wow. Commissioner Fruit said 40, but they started in 87.
So they're getting close. He's big about that.
Okay. And, maybe he's saying they started planning in 86. So either here nor there, it's upcoming on his 4th decade. So been involved for quite a while, some as an exec, some as a fan. And here we go.
Silly, how do we get to this CBA crap? You know what I'm saying? So, again, thank you for joining us. We'll get to your current lacrosse endeavors, but I want to first ask you, because I love broadcasting. I like the play-by-play side. I believe you dabbled in the color stuff. Tell me about the broadcasting career for you. What years did you do it? Who was winning back then? How was that for you?
Yeah, it was great. I miss it. I did color and play-by-play.
Wow.
I don't know which one I was more terrible at, but I
did
like
both
more? Of them. I like the play-by-play for the simple fact that I could cut someone else off instead of the other way around. I feel like when you're an analyst, you got to always be very quick hits, and sometimes you got a good story. And so, it's just a little more nerve-wracking. Whereas play-by-play, you're just kind of telling the story, and you're like a second or two behind the play.
Was your son on the junior Swarm team?
I saw his teammate Kai. Yeah, so he plays on the junior Swarm. He plays on the junior Seals as well. So we're still staying involved with now it's the next generation of my son. So he does that. He does some field lacrosse, and but yeah, we went up to Canada for the junior NLL tournament this past year, and then he does a couple tournaments with the San Diego Seals. I guess they're called the Junior Seals out in California as well.
Put some respect on their name. That's all. I didn't realize the connect. That's an awesome connection I just found out. Thank you, Kai, for that comment. So who was winning in the league back then? Like, do you remember like a dominant team? Was it the Rock?
No, it was Philadelphia. So let's just start with a time frame, just so we kind of know. So I started as a fan in '95, and my coach in high school played NLL for 13 years. So I got him. His name is Gordon Purdy. He's the first ever Australian. In my opinion, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Awesome. Played 13 years, was one of the all-time leading face-off guys. Obviously, that record is now come and gone because, there's a few games. But I started, working in the league in 97 or 98 as an intern for the now defunct New York Saints. So from that to about 2006 was when I was really between the Saints, the New Jersey Storm turned Anaheim Storm, and then the league office itself. So just to give a time frame, the Wings were the cream of the crop. They won 6 titles, which I didn't realize till last night that Buffalo has now eclipsed at 7. So it's Toronto and Philly have 6 each, and Buffalo has 7. But for a long time, Mike, Buffalo was the creme of the creme, both from a talent standpoint and also just from an attendance standpoint. They were it was a tough. Everyone uses the word barn, so I'll just say it was a tough barn to go into for sure.
Well, Philly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
sorry if I said, but I meant to say Philly. Sorry.
No,
but Buffalo was good too. Don't get me wrong. But there was a couple years where Philly just was. They had the Gate brothers, and they just were on a tear.
Oh, do they have the attendance record? Because Freud did say that. Do they have more than 19,070, or like how is that record?
So if Toronto has the all-time single game record, but Philly's in like the top 3. As a matter of fact, when I was preparing for this, I was on the NLL website last night, and if you scroll to the bottom, they've actually updated the record book for 25-26, which is awesome that they had that. And so they have the attendance records in there. They actually put some cool stats. Who had the most sock tricks and who had this and that. So anyway, to answer your question, Philadelphia was the team to beat back then.
Is it pushing 20,000 or how? Like, what is that?
19 and change.
Wow. Okay, I did not realize that. Well, that's awesome. Like, how far the body is.
But you have to remember, and you may not know this, and I don't mean to insult your intelligence there, but there was 2 arenas there. There was the Spectrum on one side of the parking lot, which is where Rocky was filmed. And then there was it's been the First Union Center, it's been the Wachovia Center, it's been the Chorus Day Spectrum. Now it's the Xfinity Center. So in their heyday, they were playing in the Spectrum, which had less people, but it was still jam-packed. So it's a little bit of a skewed number, if you will.
Before we get to your PR stuff, what do you think was working for Philadelphia? I mean, I know winning, but I feel like those fans would show up if things are being run well, whether it be from the ownership or whoever it is. What do you think was working well? It can't just be winning, is it?
No, I mean, I think that always helps. But so let me take it back. So the league was founded by 2 guys named Russ Klein and Chris Fritz out of Kansas City. And they owned the leagues. It was a single entity ownership. They owned 4 teams. It fluctuated, but in its heyday, it was Baltimore, New York, Philly, and I think maybe Buffalo. Buffalo came in 92. But so there was a team before that, but I think it was maybe Pittsburgh or Detroit. But anyway, when the league split to the NLL, the Klein Fritz group kept 3 teams. Philly was one of them. That was their flagship team. So you had people that had been doing this for years. Now, instead of putting their efforts into 7 teams, they only had to put it into 3. And then when they got rid of the Saints and they got rid of the, I believe it was the Ontario Raiders, which now has become the Rock. They owned all 3 teams. So anyway, when they got rid of those 2, they put all their efforts into Philly. So you had what was working, and they only had to put it into 1 team in 8 dates. It was pretty good. Now, the other thing is there was arena football, which is now not there anymore, but there wasn't as much competition. The MLS wasn't what it was. And there's, just more 3-on-3 basketball tournaments and, all sorts of things that you're fighting for people's dollars. As a matter of fact, they used to have a saying, like this was their marketing slogan. It said, Major Indoor Lacrosse League, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge. And so it was just kind of, $25, come in, get a couple beers, have a fun night on Friday, watch a couple fights. And then afterwards, the big highlight for MILL was the post-game parties. All the players had to go. And so you got to party with the players. So you got to meet them, and then, they become your buddies. So you want to keep seeing them play because, they didn't have cell phones back then, but, you're following people that you met at the bar and you're buying him a drink or, whatever. So I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of guys that went to the bar, met a significant other that wound up being their husband or wife, as the case may be. So I think it was just a real more party atmosphere. That was the big thing.
I feel like that's more like a romantic comedy waiting to be written, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Like Love and the Cross, rated R. Anyways, so you obviously dabbled in the PR stuff for the NLL. And I got to ask you, what was your kind of job responsibilities without obviously making that sound too much, but what was your responsibilities? And what was the league's like? Like, where were you guys pushing towards the fans?
So I started there working on the summers, doing an internship, and then they hired me out of college, which I did that for a little while, and then got hired by the NHL. So I wound up moving up. At the time, there was almost every team was owned by NBA, NHL, or AHL, so it was sort of an easy transition. But I worked in the city with the commissioner named Jim Jennings, who's preceded the commissioner now by a few, and George Daniel, who went on to be the commissioner, and Doug Fritz, who was the VP of PR. So small league, we all worked together. And the big thing was, from the commissioner's standpoint, Jim Jennings, was keep the NLL relevant. Every day there had to be a new story on the website, a new original story of something. We had a PR scroller box that had all the stories. So I would compile all the stories from around the country. And it just was, keep things moving, keep things popping. Also, we had signed a deal with CNN SI, which went on to be a number of other things. Eventually got taken over by NBC. The Versus Network. It was Outdoor Network. Anyway, so that was the big thing, was just, we were expanding like crazy. We had gone to West. The Mammoth had just started. And so it was just keep the NLL in people's mouths. And we had weekly coaches calls. We had weekly PR calls. And it just was, keep the NLL popping.
I don't want you to say anything negative if you're not dabbling in that stuff, but do you think the league is doing a good job in this current state at keeping it in people's mouths? Because I think it's more of media members doing that, in my personal opinion.
I would answer it this way, and it's not a matter of being positive or negative. I would answer this way. I think that they have shifted their focus, which Commissioner Sakevich was very big in digital. That was his big selling point.
Okay.
I think that they have done a great job from the social media aspect. I think the highlights are great. They do some vignettes and stuff. I think where maybe they're lacking a little bit is in just getting it in the papers and online and stuff. In this IL Indoor and USA Lacrosse, and certainly one-offs like you and Cody and Pat Gregoire and Jake Elliott. So I think that they've just shifted their attention. But again, back then there was no social media; it didn't exist, so it was a little bit different. So that's how I'd answer. I think that they're hiring digital people left and right, and they're very focused on the NLL Plus and the ESPN Pluses and the TSN Pluses and everything. So it's not a good or bad. It's just what they focused their attention on.
I know, again, since you were in the front office, you've heard those conversations before. I think NLL Plus is an interesting thing, because I feel like every argument against NLL Plus is always, well, YouTube's free. You can always say, I feel like there's for every argument you make for NLL Plus, it's like, well, YouTube can do that too. I know in the States, I keep saying that fans have no clue what this sport is unless they live in the Northeast. It's impossible to know what the sport is. How do those broadcast conversations work? Were you ever a part of them? How do those negotiating and broadcast stuff, how do they decide what to do with that?
Well, so we at the time, the league was a pay on broadcast. So we had Fox Sports, all regional. We had CNN, SI, a little bit of ESPN. We had the Score Network in Canada. We had TSN. So it was really just, we paid the money and they took care of everything for us. Now I think the league is, because they're doing a lot of in-house, they're creating the content. And not that we didn't have to feed them some content, we certainly did, but if you're paying the money from soup to nuts, they're going to take care of the highlights and the intros and everything. And there wasn't really this, sometimes, unfortunately, on the ESPN Pluses I watch, the sound goes out. Well, when you're talking to network television, that doesn't happen very frequently. So there wasn't as much of hand-holding as I think maybe now. But again, that's because they've decided to go in-house. And I know this, they used to have a studio when Tyson Dyke was there and some other folks, Mia Gordon, excuse me. I think Mia Hamm stuck with soccer her whole life. I don't think she worked for the NLL. And so to answer your question, that is, I think, again, just what they've decided to do. What I would say, where I think the NLL is lacking, though, is I think the website is so outdated and there's just never anything new. And I think what's fascinating me about that website is they'll put a story up, like a huge story, whether it's CBA or something, and either it's up there for a day and it's down, it's buried, or you'll have a big story and it just goes right to the buried spot, like other news. Like I just, again, we had it pop in, when you click on some of the team websites, some of them have updated stuff, some of them don't have updated stuff. Correct. So I just think someone needs to just really go through it with a fine tooth comb. And I know they have I've seen some gals' names that are working there, and I'm sure, they're wearing a million hats, like the commissioner said. But I just think from the eye test, I think maybe they're lacking there a little bit.
Fair enough. So let's get more positive now, because I know you do a lot for lacrosse now. I know your Twitter, you've been campaigning for people to show up to stuff. But let's talk about first your high school coaching. Tell me about the team that you coach and how long you've been doing that for.
Yeah, so for 25 years, I've been an NCAA coach / high school coach / athletic director.
Wow.
At different spots. I've lived all over the country, just kind of riding the wave. Right now, I'm presently about to begin coaching at It's called the Fieldston School in the Bronx. Coaching, I coach men's and women's for a long time now. I'm kind of just transitioning to the girls side of it. I just kind of reinvigorated me a little bit, just a newer game. So I've done that. I've coached at Delphi University the last 2 years. We've done the national championship the last 2 years.
Wow.
But really, as my son has gotten older and my daughter, who's not really a sporty spice, I've wanted to spend more time with them and just be a dad. So I don't coach my son. We just, we travel around. He's, I'm not going to say he's the creme de la creme, but he's been around the game for a long time. So, his skills are a little bit higher than maybe some other people, but that's despite his father, not because of his father's skills. So, so that's what I do now. So I'm excited to start that in about December, in about 3 months.
Oh, there you go. Is there any other initiatives that you're a part of right now in lacrosse, or just the coaching right now?
No. So there's an organization out of Irvine, California called the Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation.
Okay.
And they have an initiative started by a gal named Bonnie Lattimore. And it is lacrosse out cancer. So if you think of coaches versus cancer. So we travel all over the country we did a clinic for special needs, neurodiverse folks, all ages. My son and I, he does everything with me. So we do that. We also work with an organization called Friends of Jacqueline, which matches children with pediatric brain cancer and different teams. And you adopt them or you draft them onto your team. And so we've done those initiatives. So those are kind of the two things. But I'm always kind of working on helping expand the footprint of lacrosse. Just because it's done a lot for me. I've coached the Bermuda national team, the under-19 team, which let me tell you something. People say, the best coaching gigs are Hopkins and Princeton and Virginia. No, it's not. Coaching the Bermuda national team and getting to go to Bermuda a few times, that was the best coaching gig.
I love that. Who needs boosters, man? Come on.
Exactly.
I love it. So can we dabble in the NLL pre? Do you have any opinions on NLL, like on the teams right now, or do you kind of just observe?
No, and I do. No, I follow the business side of them. You guys do a lot of stuff. You had Stamper on doing drafts, and I just don't follow that closely to know.
Right.
I look at all the business articles, and I love when the commissioner comes on or he speaks or other executives. I think the NLL Unboxed is cool. I don't quite understand it, and I'm a lacrosse guy. I get the point of it, but I just don't know if the rollout has been the best, because I've asked other people that are in the sports world, and they're like, Josh, if you don't understand and you're a lacrosse guy, we don't have a shot. So I think it's cool. The logos are definitely good. I love how you went through and you kind of did a presentation maybe to them.
Awesome, dude.
So I think it's great. I just we had our thing was called the Scoop and Shoot.
Right.
And what it was every arena did it. They hosted a Scoop and Shoot. You put 5-6 balls out. You time the kid. They start on one end of the goal. They go in a semicircle, and then we had the finals in the All-Star game or I can't remember exactly what it was. And it was clean. It was easy. But it was very basic. I think what NLL Unboxed is trying to do is they're trying to get more numbers, so more people want to sponsor the league. I get it. It's hard to get sponsored right now when you have teams folding and expanding and not expanding. And so I think that's one thing that they're trying. I think the rollout. I think if everything was equal, they'd have somebody just in charge of NLL Unboxed. But they don't have the luxury of doing that. Like
Hunsaker wears a lot. Kurt Hunsaker wears a lot of hats. I've heard that too. So
yeah.
So with the Unboxed thing, because I think of my hope is that it becomes like a kind of a farm system, even though it's so many years away from that. But like obviously, let's say a team does get expanded to Edmonton if it's not a relocation. You wonder if there's gonna be like an adult version of the Juice logo, or do they just abandon that? Do they keep the colors? I don't know how that's going to work. I hope they have some things in their back pocket. But how do you, like, from a business person yourself, how do you think that can work? Like, I don't know even how to ask this. How would you do this stuff, like, with like putting this sticks in kids' hands?
Well, let me answer that two ways. I think the premise of it is great. So you called Edmonton Juice, right? So I think, if a team or an owner is looking at Edmonton and you've already got a base of kids wearing the logos and interest, well, then it's like, all right, they always say, you need a good arena deal, you need a good owner, and you need a good community relations situation. Right. Well, you've already got one of those done, which, if somebody has money, they have money. There's arenas, either you want the arena or you don't. the fans are what's hard. Obviously, butts and seats are what makes it work. So I think that's great. Again, I just think that they keep rolling it out. I understand why, from a business standpoint, you want more numbers, more eyes on the league, so sponsors like it. But I just think that they haven't necessarily solidified what it is yet. I think a video would be great. You know, a 2-minute marketing video. Just say, hey, look, this is what it is. They've done it for other things. That's where I would do it. I think the way that I would do it, again, is I would have it where here's how I would do it. Let's take Calgary, just for random sake. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's take Calgary. I would have Calgary, but I would do it in Calgary in a neighboring city where you can have players come out and build it up. And then you can then have a portfolio and a footprint and then sell it to say a San Jose or an Iowa or whatever, because you have the players already in-house. Now you're trying to create it with people that may or may not even be box people. Some of them are, but some of them may not. All those places, right. Austin, I lived in Austin for 5 years and I coached there. Austin does not have a very big box footprint at all. So now you're having people try and coach it that may or may not be box enthusiasts. And God bless them for doing it. I think that's awesome. They're spreading the game. But are you really getting the most bang for buck? So the way that Austin is done is going to be different than the way Edmonds is done. Is going to be different than the way Long Island is done. So I just think maybe they expand a little bit too quickly on that without getting it under control. Agreed.
Chris Fox, CLL, says they need to staff on Bucks who is going to the schools, especially the lacrosse. But yeah, I mean, like, you know that, like, the Powell lacrosse helps, but, like, how many employees are there? And I'm going to be honest, I'm very interested to see when I reach out to the Jacksonville Swamp Pups, whoever's helping that out, what this looks like. I'm curious to report on how that looks, because, like, everyone's like, huh? Like, I'll put this with the Indianapolis Checkers. I don't know if you called that on social media. Mm-hmm. That was freaking awesome. Like, seeing the logo on a kid's jersey was like, oh, so there's fruits of the labor, but again, where's the expo? How did we get here? Like, why did they just randomly pop up? How did we get here? I think fans would embrace this even more if they could see that story.
Yep, agreed. You're spot on.
It's coming,
but we'll see. You know, we're just along for the ride, right, Mike?
Right. Who wins the championship in the NLL? Just off the cuff.
This year?
Yeah.
I would listen from a storybook. I mean, no team's ever won 4 in a row. So, I mean, that would be really cool to see. From a practicality standpoint, the parity is just ridiculous. So it's hard for me to say. I think Toronto. I think given their draft picks, I think the resurgence with the new arena, I think the Oshawa rivalry, I think it gives them something a little fire under them to play for. Again, I don't follow the drafts. I just know what I see. I just think there's no shortage of talent in Toronto, in the Ontario region. So I'm going to go with Toronto, but I'll tell you who I think is a sleeper. You haven't done all yours, so you might say, Josh, this is my number 2. But I don't, because of how good the coach is, Malowski, Vancouver. I would think Vancouver could be a sleeper.
Unfortunately, they're not a sleeper. They're like one of the cream of the crop right now based on the roster. But it feels like Vancouver. I'm interested to see, like, because I do think it's like a 3-team race between Saskatchewan, Vancouver, and Buffalo. We'll see.
Yeah,
it's like I said. I was happy to see the Chiefs. I was happy. I wanted this Kansas City Chiefs to do that, but I was happy that Buffalo Bears were able to pull that off because I wanted to see a three-peat. I didn't care what sport it was, but in the NLL, it was pretty cool. And for the record, on this show, nobody's won besides the Bandits. So it is what it is.
So they should be paying you royalties, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, like, Scott Loeffler, I'm open for business. Anything to close with anything fun?
I got a couple fun facts. If you have, maybe if you can give me another 5 minutes.
I'm a nerd. I like numbers. Go ahead, give them out.
Okay. All right. So a couple fun stories. Yeah, I like that. Right. So the New York Saints, which again were on Long Island previously, they had one Canadian on the team, maybe 2. A guy named Jason Wilder, who met his wife at a post-game party. Then went on to Calgary. I think his number might be retired. But the Saints used to outdraw the New York Islanders at the Nassau Coliseum.
Love that.
That was awesome to see. The New Jersey Storm, which obviously played in New Jersey, right in the Meadowlands, they would outdraw the Devils on TV ratings on Fox Sports. So there's been some good stuff. So there's one good story that, and this predated me, but they used to travel with the carpet, the turf, to place because they had no place to store it. So they would go.
Turf things are weird to me. Go ahead.
So in Philly one year, the goals didn't make it. I don't know why. So there's actually video of them using the hockey warm-up goals to use the hockey goals. Let me tell you some other ones. The greatest moment in NLL history, I'll give you that one, in my opinion, for what it's worth, right?
Okay.
Is the lockout happened in the NHL, and the NLL was able to take over that share of, I wouldn't say all of the NHL, and they had the All-Star game and the championship game on NBC, which nowadays PLL's on and, this and the other. But back then, it was the first time on network television. And Mike Doc Emmerich, who was the lead voice for the NHL, called both games. And I wound up running into him on an Amtrak, actually. And he said, I have to tell you, he said, I had so much fun with the NLL. He said, the guys are phenomenal athletes and the most down to earth. So if you get a chance, Dallas Elliott, who's, in my opinion, one of the greatest all-time goalies ever to play the game. He has a Hall of Fame Netminder 35 YouTube. He's got a lot of old videos, and he has the NLL championship and All-Star game. And to hear Mike Emmerich is amazing. So, and then the last thing, this is just a funny story. I know somebody asked the commissioner recently, I think it was Gregoire and Teddy Jenner, who are phenomenal, about an All-Star game. And, and there's a lot of, and I agree with the commissioner. I've seen 2 All-Star games, one at Mohegan Sun and one in Rochester. And Mohegan Sun, the boards were plastic and it wasn't a lot of fun. But I want to share a funny story with you. And for some reason, I can't find any film of it. But 1999, my coach, Gordon Purdy, was nominated for the All-Star game. And he didn't make the team. But then they had these 2 ancillary picks from the commissioner, and he was picked because of his community relations. So I said to him, if you make it, I'll go with you. So we go to Rochester, and it's in Rochester, obviously, back when they were filling that place. And so I'm on the field for the introductions, and I start to walk back to the seats. And the Philadelphia Wings, it was their coaching staff, so their equipment manager said, would you like to do the door? And here, I'm in high school. I'm a senior in high school. I said, yeah, here I am doing the door. So the final score was 25-24 Canada in overtime. There was 1 penalty called in the whole game. Too many men for the Americans. This guy right here. Thank God they didn't score on it. So I got on the stat sheet unofficially as the door guy. But it was an amazing, amazing game. And it was just a fun time. So, there's nobody that wants it to, I think, rise as much as you do. And I'd like to think I'm a close second. I'd love to see a team come back to the New York area. I know it's been a beaten, but it can work if it's done the right way. The last team was not marketed the right way, in my opinion.
Correct. Even with the seafoam green.
I know you like that seafoam green, like you feel like you're in a hospital. I know that. But I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what everyone does. I can't say every single person on here, but I love it, what you guys do. Again, my advice to the NLL, not that you've asked unsolicited, is just maybe focus on the print/digital media stories and having, like I said, Jim Jennings' rule was a new story every day. We want people coming back to the website every day to see what's up. So, but I'm a fan now, and I'm looking forward to a great season in, I guess, 2 weeks or so.
Love that. Hey, by the way, well, that's not what I wanted, but okay, thing. Here it is. El's gonna leave. Hold on. Come on, Long Island.
I don't know what the hell a moon jelly is, but it looks great though.
Isn't it? I know it, since you told me Seafoam Green looks like a hospital scrub, like now I'm screwed. I think this is beautiful.
Oh, I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't know what the hell a moon jelly is. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what it is.
We're the same.
But
love it.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I appreciate it, and I know we'll stay in touch, and certainly anything you have from a historical standpoint. I'm a wealth of knowledge with that. I don't know about anything else in my life, but with wealth of knowledge in NLL, I haven't figured out a way to make money. But I appreciate it. Look, I love the show. I listen every day. I love that you moved it to 10 o'clock, by the way, because 1 o'clock was a little difficult. And keep on keeping on, my man.
Keep sending the tweets that we didn't talk about. We'll send them anyways.
Sounds good, man. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it, and best of luck to you the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Josh, everybody. Hey, that was fun. Bunch of stuff there, man. But again, how do we get to this point, and how can we improve on the history and the things we did wrong and things we did right. I like that a lot. All-Star Game is going to be so fun. If it does happen one day, obviously not now, but one day. I forgot to mention this. Chris Fox said CLL said Dallas's YouTube is what the NLL Plus should be. Love that. Like just all the history stuff on it, like all the All-Star games. Like how the NLL doesn't have access to that, I'm not sure. Kai the Goalie says, nice to see you. I still cannot believe that Kai the Goalie had connections to this guy. That was so cool.